So guess who finally found time to make this video? I did. I don't know. I know I promised it like over a month ago, but I just haven't been in the mood to do anything. But I figured today is the day, especially because the August recruits should be coming in 2 weeks. So I know many of you are probably wondering, have I made the right decision to go to Japan with Interac? And I think yes, because my experience with them, with Interac, working with Interac was amazing. I have very few complaints, and I'll go into details what I liked about Interac and maybe what I didn't like, and I'll try to go through everything very quickly because this is 4 years of experience. So if you don't know, I worked with Interac from March 2015 to March 2019, so this year, 4 years working with Interac. And I'm just gonna talk about my experience. I'm not going to speak on behalf of everyone who works for Interac, because everyone has different experiences, and some people like to work for Interac, other people don't. I'm one of those persons who really enjoyed my time working with Interac. So this is a positive video, positivity. So let me begin. How Interac works is the Board of Education gives a contract to Interac to provide ALTs in the school board system, right? Then at that level, you have the board. You have a contract where the school gives instructions to the teacher directly, and then you have another contract where the school tells Interac what they want the teacher to do, and then Interac will give the schedule to the teacher. But the school cannot directly tell the teacher what to do. I was on that contract, not the other one where the school was in charge of me. So what that allowed was I wouldn't be taken advantage of by the school. So if the school wanted me to work beyond my scheduled amount of hours, they couldn't do that, because I could just say, no, Interac, this is my schedule from Interac. It says from this time to this time, so bye. And I never had to pull that card at all with my high school. They were very respectful of my schedule. Sometimes when I would stay extra to work with like the ESS club or the English debate team, and they'd be like, oh, still here, time. I was like, no, it's okay, don't worry, volunteer. But when you work with Interac, you can pull that card. You can say, Interac says this is my schedule. I'm not supposed to do more than this amount of classes. And other contracts or other companies, the school kind of tells you how much you have to do. So it makes life a little easier, where you won't be taken advantage of if you know how to play that card and say, Interac says I can't, so I'm not going to. So one thing I didn't like about working with Interac, or rather it's because other companies or other programs provided it and Interac didn't, so it made me kind of sad. No airfare. So with Jet, they pay for airfare, or you pay for airfare and they reimburse you or something like that. Airfare is covered with other programs, maybe I think with Peppy too. With Interac, no, you pay for your own airfare, which would be okay if I had the opportunity to book early or in advance. I did not know where I was going or when I was going or get my visa back until it was about 3 weeks before I had to leave. So I had to book last minute and purchase a very expensive one-way ticket to Japan. So I didn't like that. That money came out of my own pocket. But what I did like is when I arrived in Japan, after I did training, I'll talk about training after I discuss this. After I did training, I was able to move into my apartment, no problems, no issues. I didn't have to arrange for internet or water connection. Everything was set up for me perfectly. So if you're moving to a different country by yourself, being able to just arrive and settle in as fast as possible is just a weight lifted off of your shoulders. So I really did appreciate Interac for that, being able to set up, being able to provide accommodations that easily. And I suggest that anyone, if you're coming to Japan, if you're new to Japan, if you don't know Japanese, do not assume that you can just come here and find an apartment on your own. It's not going to happen, sweetie. It's not going to happen because you need a guarantor, and a guarantor is a Japanese person who can swear for you basically and say you'll be a good tenant. If you're fresh to Japan and you don't know any Japanese people, how are you going to get a guarantor? So you really don't want to be homeless and then last minute trying to contact your company like Interac and say, please help me find accommodations. So if you want, you can look online. I know a lot of people don't like how Interac gives very expensive apartments, and you don't have to settle for the ones that they give you. You can ask, you can be very honest with them and say, I can't afford this. Are there other options? Which a lot of people did. I didn't have to. I was very, very, very lucky. Interac offered an apartment that I had to pay no key money, which is usually like 50,000 yen extra or 500 yen extra. I didn't have to pay that. My apartment startup fee was like 132 yen, which is like back then was the lowest anyone had heard. So I was very, very lucky with that regard. Actually, my experience with Interac, everything was very, very lucky because I was very, very lucky to get 2 great schools and had no problems in the 4 years. So like I said, this is a very positive video based on my experience. But being able to have accommodations that were ready instantly, that was great, and that was provided by Interac, so that's a plus. So I had to pay for airfare by myself, but when I got there, I could settle in easily. Training, however, training was weird. I don't know how JET training is or Peppy Kids Club training. Those are the other programs I know, but the issue I had was my contract was for a high school, 2 high schools, a day school and a night school in Wakayama. And Interac had just received that contract maybe a year or 2 before. So the contract was new to them, the high school contract. Interac usually deals with elementary schools and junior high schools. So high schools was a little out of their knowledge. So when I went to training, most of it was how to teach an elementary school lesson, how to teach a junior high school lesson. And so when I actually went to teach, I was like, oh, this is completely different. What am I going to do? Learn to adjust. Talk to the teachers, see what they want to be done, and just learn to adjust. So training was kind of pointless for me, Interac's training. But it's really good if you have a elementary school or a junior high school. And since then, since that was like 4 years ago, they've gotten much better. In fact, Interac has quarterly training sessions during the year, and I think they use that to kind of new things that they learn to work it into the training schedule, and also to help teachers with new ideas that they didn't get from initial training. And what I noticed, that improved a lot of my teaching skills. So I was very happy for the updated training that they would provide. But initially, their training did not help me at all. It was kind of pointless to me. But that's because the contract was new, and the high school level, they weren't as familiar with it now. But everything has improved a lot since 4 years ago. So if you go to training, they will do a much better job than before. Other people, I don't think they thought, I think they thought training was pointless too, but that's their opinion. I'm going to talk about mine only. So training, after training, I got to school, and the thing with Interact is, how do I put this? JET, the Japan Exchange Teaching Program that a lot of people do, they kind of baby you. They provide you with friend connections to stick together and talk about things, and if you need help, you can talk to those persons. With Interac, they're kind of like, okay, you're here now, go do your thing. They kind of leave you to your own devices, and that's not bad if you're a mature individual who, you know, you've probably lived on your own and you know how to take care of yourself. So that's not bad. However, for persons fresh out of university, or people, yeah, it would be fresh out of university because you need a bachelor's degree to work with Interac, and you don't really know the real world, it's kind of difficult, and you probably start to panic because you're calling Interac constantly for help. How do I turn this on? How do I go to here? I remember my first week, I had to do everything by myself without any Japanese, and it was frustrating. And there wasn't a lot Interact could do to help me, but I survived because you're an adult, so you learn to handle things on your own. So I would not recommend Interact for someone who needs to be coddled, someone who needs someone to help them. It's not for you. Interact is for persons who are very independent and don't need that much assistance for anything. They can work things out on their own. But so for me, I learned to do that. I could adjust. For other people, not so great. So they start to complain. They say Interact doesn't help them. And that's actually not true, because anytime I needed, like really, really needed assistance, if I didn't understand important government documents or if I needed medical care, I just messaged my branch, what do you call it? The personnel who takes care of you. But I kind of had a bomb ass support with my branch. My branch was Kansai Southwest or something. Kansai branch. It used to be the Osaka branch and it changed. But they dealt with Wakayama contracts, Osaka, Hyogo, parts of Hyogo. Nara? No, not Nara. So that branch, anything I needed, I messaged them. They got back to me the next day, no problems. When I had to do my surgery, I contacted them. They sorted out what needed to be sorted out. They got me time off, paid time off. So it was amazing. So I had absolutely no problems with my branch. If other people had problems with their branch, that's on them. If you need help, Interact will help you. A lot of people don't ask for the help and then they complain and say Interact doesn't help you. And I'm like, did you email them? Did you call? Of course, don't call them constantly, call them for every little thing. If you can't turn on your stove, Interact help, I can't turn on my stove, figure it out. But if you need medical assistance, if you need legal assistance, call them. Duh. So I really had no issues with being assisted in any way when necessary at all with Interact. Another thing, a bad thing that I don't like about Interact is some positions you need a car, and so you're basically paying for half of it Interact pays for and half you pay for. And that might seem like a good idea, but the salary, which I probably should mention, this at the end of the day, a big chunk of your salary goes bye-bye towards that car. So I was lucky, which is why I said my experience with Interact is much different from others, where I didn't have a car and I didn't need a car. I had a bicycle. And Interact pays for a bicycle if you need one too, by the way. Well, they used to. I don't know if they still anymore. But yeah, so that wasn't an issue for me. And since I touched on it, I will mention the salary. Now for me, fortunately, I lived in Wakayama where I could get a part-time job, which I'll come to after this. And so I was able to supplement the income I got from Interac with my part-time job earnings. Interac, as far as I know, is the only company in Japan that offer for ALTs where you can work a part-time job with them. They have no problem whatsoever with it. You have to go through a process where you apply for permission and then get the back of your card stamped to say that you got authorization to work for Interac and the part-time job. And by part-time job, I don't mean working in a host club or working at Burger King, something relevant to instructing English. So like if you want to work at a small eikaiwa like I did afterwards, then Interac has no problem with that whatsoever. You just have to go through the process of registering and getting permission from them, which is easy, by the way. And so Interac is the only company that does that. Jet, you cannot do that, which is why they probably pay a little more than Interac. Peppy Kids Club, you can't do that because your schedule is just all over the place. Nova, no. So a lot of the other companies, you definitely can have a part-time job, but with Interac, they have no problem with that whatsoever. So the salary for me, initially, it was 250,000 yen a month, I think, was it? I don't remember. Or 230 a month. And then Yes, it was 230,000 yen a month, which is what, 2000 US dollars or 2200 US dollars. I can't do exchange rate. So it's not that much if you factor in the expenses that you'll have. For example, I should do a video on expenses in the last part. When you're there after a year and you have to pay city tax. Mine was like $90,000 and you have to pay health insurance. Mine was like $21,000 and you have to pay pension. Mine was 16,000 yen, not dollars, sorry, yen. So at the end of the month, once my rent went out, once my utilities, once my health insurance was taken out, I would bank about 160,000 yen. You can convert that if you want, and that seems like that's an okay amount if you're not doing anything wild. So, but what I would do with my part-time job, I would supplement that. So I'd use my part-time job earnings to pay for anything else, for any trips, and I'd be able to save a significant amount of money each month. Now, as I said, I came in as a recruit in March, not in August. And if you're applying with Interac, as best you can, try and get in the March group, because then you get the full 1 year contract. So the thing I didn't like about Interac is usually those persons who come in the August recruits, they only have like a 9 month contract. And at the end of that contract, you usually have to move. Those contracts aren't very stable. They lose them a lot. They lose those contracts a lot. So you come and you pay all that startup fee for apartment. 9 months later, you have to move to another prefecture and start all over again and spend a lot of money. So that's my tip for you. Unfortunately, if you're coming into August recruits, save your money within those 9 months. Do not spend on anything extravagant. You're going to need it for when the contract is up and you're going to get moved. It will probably work out moving for you. But I think overall, Interac is a very good company to work with. It's important for you when you work with Interac to make sure that you don't do anything to jeopardize the contract. I know that people want to be independent and live their life and they don't want to follow rules. So if that's the case, please don't work for Interac. Interac has been in Japan for like, I think, almost 30 years, and they have an established reputation of being a decent company. And they don't need recruits who come in and they just want to be in Japan to party and ruin that reputation. And once you do that, you put other people's jobs in jeopardy. So if you're that the type of thing you want to do, I suggest you go and work with the JET program, because the JET program is very difficult. It's not hard. No, sorry. With the JET program, you can do whatever you want, and they kind of won't really discipline you because it's the government has hired you, whatever. Interac, if the Board of Education doesn't like you, they'll message Interac, and Interac will move your ass so that you don't ruin their reputation. And they have every right to do that. But yeah. So please don't mess it up for other people. Go listen to the instructions Interac gives you. They might seem weird, like they're like, when you go to Bonenkai or to welcome parties, please don't get drunk and embarrass yourself. But it's true. Don't get drunk. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't say things that will put the contract in jeopardy. Interac is very keen on making sure that their reputation is upheld, and they want to make sure that the teachers they hire don't embarrass them. Now with Interac, unlike JET, you can actually, after your first year or your second year, if you want to move from the countryside, you can't do it anymore, I suggest you stick it out for a year. So you stay in the countryside area, you get to know the area, you try and like it, and if you really don't, but if your performance level is very good, then you can move to a different branch. You can apply and move to a different branch, and usually Interac doesn't deny these transfers as long as your performance is good. So that's why I suggest that you really stick it out, be the best teacher possible, get a wonderful report from the school, and then they always consider to move you after the year. I did not move. Everything in Wakayama was perfect. My life in Wakayama was amazing. I still don't know why I left. I'm kidding. It was time to go. But in general, I would give my experience with Interac 10 out of 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I did have a few problems, but everything for me it was like a perfect situation. I got very, very lucky, and some other people aren't as lucky, and you can listen to their experience, but I'm talking about my own, and I just want to say how grateful I am to Interac for the opportunity to have worked with them, and I really appreciate all the help I got over the years from my branch, and I would definitely recommend it for Jamaicans, especially who want to go to Japan and experience such an amazing culture, people, and working in a great environment. So that's it for now. If you are a future employee of Interac, good luck, and let me know how it goes. Let me know if you had a good experience with Interac. If not, I'm sorry. I feel bad because I did. Till next time.